NRG Stadium, Houston, Texas, the Bayou City, home of today's Group D opener between Colombia and Paraguay, a match won by the Colombians by a final score of 2-1 as we welcome you into the Futbol Americas LA studios. Ale, Moreno, Herculez Gomez, Sebastian Salazar. Ale, Colombia came into this tournament as one of the favorites. Did they look like it here in their first game?
At times. I think at times they did. In the first half in particular, there were moments in which you kind of see, okay, this is what they can be in the attack when you control the pace of the game, control the rhythm of the game, and allow James Rodriguez to get in the ball in advanced position. Then at this point still in his career, he can find a ball. He can find a pass. And he did that for the first goal. What a beautiful service that was for Daniel Munoz, and certainly the set piece as well. And the goal from Jefferson Lerman, you're thinking, well, that's the Colombia we were hoping to get and expecting to get. But even in that first half, there were moments in which Paraguay evened the game up. And it felt like if Paraguay had something else in the attack, maybe they would have created more problems for Colombia. They did that in the second half with the goal that they scored. Overall, I think Colombia will be happy with the result. In terms of the performance, I think they'll be happy of moments. They'll also be happy about the fact that it was a relatively quiet game from Luis Diaz. It was a really quiet game from Rafael Santos Borré, and you still got 2 goals and you still got the 3 points. Overall, I think if you are Colombia, you walk out of this, much like many of the teams that have played so far in this tournament, we'll take the 3 points and we'll move on with our lives.
James Rodriguez with a couple assists at 32 years old. What did you think of his performance?
I'd say typical James Rodriguez performance with the Colombian national team. And why I say that is because there's 2 versions of James Rodriguez, what you see at the club level and what you get at the national team. Seems to transform when he puts on that yellow jersey. He's a different type of player. Ali mentioned the quality he has on the ball. Set pieces were a factor here. Every time he was over the ball on a set piece, it was a dangerous ball whipped in. It was a goal-scoring opportunity. He gets his head up. He finds Munoz. He's got that quality about him. One play in the second half where he decided wrong. He maybe should have shot and started trying to service his teammate. Regardless, when he's in the final third, ball at his feet and he has time and space, he's going to hurt you. He's a quality player. He's proven it.
The problem that I think Colombia has with James Rodriguez, and of course he's going to be on the field because he is still that guy for this team. We think of who's the flag bearer for Colombia. Well, it is Luis Diaz. But close, and I mean close behind him, it's James Rodriguez. And anytime he touches the ball, the stadium gets excited. But here's the problem. When they lose control of the game, when they lose the rhythm and pace of the match, and now you're going to need some work defensively from James Rodriguez, it's not happening. It's not coming. And so I think you find the liability of having James Rodriguez on the field in those sort of moments, and Paraguay sort of took advantage of that. And just as soon as we thought that maybe Paraguay were going to get back in the match, then you see the qualities of James Rodriguez actually getting in possession of the ball and being an outlet for Colombia and taking the game into the attacking half. And they were no longer just hanging on in their defensive third. They were actually in the attacking third and looking closer to a third goal rather than Paraguay tying the game up. So it's that dichotomy, is that contrast in his game in which you kind of figure, man, he's good when he's on the ball, but it's tough to defend if he's on the field. But we'll take the fact that he's on the ball because of what he can do. But do we really? Because defensively it's a problem. Against better teams, I think it becomes a bigger problem. But today it wasn't so much of an issue.
To Ali's point on that, it's really odd that Lorenzo has been able to mask over those cracks, paper over those cracks, defensive liability, I will say, with James Rodriguez, with how good they've been defensively in World Cup qualifying. You have a player like that, Ali's very, very, correct in saying you're going to lose defensive stability. Other players, Bore, Arias, whoever the case may be, have to do a little bit more work because of the quality it gives you going forward. But they've been very good defending in World Cup qualifying. And this game was prototypical game that we've seen from Colombia in World Cup qualifying. They've not scored a whole lot of goals. They scored 2 today, but it's get your goal, defend well, close it up in the back, and they're undefeated right now in World Cup qualifying. But Paraguay also lent itself. Paraguay was a team that did very little in the first half, came out of a shell in the second half, threatened, yes, and for moments scared Colombia, but really for the better part of an hour, gave Colombia no issues, and it was until the end until they decided to try to play this game.
What's Paraguay's regret coming out of this game? Because there were some moments, certainly in the second half, where you thought they might be able to get something out of it.
Yeah, outside of Julio Enciso, you look at that attacking core group of players, and nobody really stood out. You think Miguel Almirón would be that guy, and a couple of his touches today were honestly very disappointing. And he got himself in a couple of good positions, but he will not play the ball with his right foot, in particular one in the first half in which he's actually isolated to the point that he has a direct path to goal if he just takes one touch past the defender with his right foot. But he is so dependent on that left foot, and if he's unable to then take advantage of the space that was created for him, of the angle that he had. And because he now has to open up his body to use his left foot, then that angle is gone. Then that forces him to take a second touch. That allows defenders to come across, and then completely gone the opportunity for Paraguay. And so I think if Paraguay are going to do anything in this group, and I don't think they will, but if they are going to do anything in this group, you have to have a much better version of Miguel Almirón, because if not, it becomes a Julio Enciso show, and I don't think that that's enough to trouble the best teams in this competition.
To bring it back to Colombia, the crowd today seemed to be incredible. It's not the first time we've seen that with Colombia playing in this country. How much a factor do you think that could be in their favor as the tournament progresses?
Absolutely. You saw it when they played the U.S. men's national team. In the U.S. men's national team's home country, Colombia was a home
in the
team.
capital city, basically.
In the
right
capital city. This is what they're going to get anytime they go forward. It's a well-traveled fan base. The team feeds off it. The field left a lot to be desired. It looked very heavy. This is game one. Who knows what those fields will look like game 3, 4, what those players' bodies will feel like game 3, 4. But certainly the fan base having that type of support away from home is going to give them a leg up.
And let's not forget, because it's becoming a story in this tournament, the early substitutions because of injuries. Yes. And it was a case today for Colombia and Joan Locumí, who is their standout defender. Some people may have thought it was Davinson Sanchez. When you look at that back four, Locumí is the guy that has been the more consistent starter for Colombia. And so that forces Yerry Mina to come onto the field. Whatever's left of Yerry Mina, as good as he has been for Colombia, look, he doesn't look great when he's moving around in that back line. But he now has to play a more important role. Jefferson Lerma had to come off early as well. What's his status? What's his situation? So it continues to be a storyline in this tournament that we're seeing early substitutions, and we're seeing players that are suffering the effects of perhaps a long season, wherever they may be coming from, and that long season is translating into potentially injuries that could hurt the chances of a team like Colombia.
You think Colombia can win it all based on what we saw today?
Not based on what we saw today. I think Colombia can win it all based on the body of work that they've had coming into this tournament. But if it is based on what we saw today, and that indeed was your question, then I think they come up just short. We need to see better from Luis Diaz, more, not necessarily more active, because he was running back and forth, but he wasn't really finding himself in good positions going forward. He really had to, and we're not the only ones that are paying attention to Luis Diaz, and so Paraguay, it's no surprise that they shift over the right back, and then the midfield that comes out into wide area, and then the trailing attacking player as well, so it created a 3v1 situation against Luis Diaz. And even that, there were moments in which he was able to get out of those situations and create space and find a ball across, but we just didn't see enough of him touching the ball in the final third, going towards goal.
Here's the problem with playing a team like Paraguay. While they're very good defensively, a very gritty defensive team, they've only given up 3 goals in all of qualifying. They don't have the quality up top to threaten you. They've only scored 1 goal in all of the whole campaign. They've got 1 win, which is against Bolivia. We saw what the U.S. men's national was able to do against this Bolivian team. It really wasn't a test. So when you don't have that threat, because Colombia at times, well, maybe they were lulled into a game versus Paraguay, but a better team with a little bit of speed in transition, take advantage of the one chance that Paraguay had. They took advantage of Mojica's incapacity to defend or be disciplined at the left back position, and they ended up scoring a goal. If you could find a more precise team that threatens you for this version of Colombia we saw against Paraguay, that could be trouble.
All right, so Colombia 2-1 winners over Paraguay in Group D. Up next for Colombia, it's Costa Rica and Arizona. Up next for Paraguay, it's Brazil in Las Vegas. Both those games on Friday. And a reminder, catch Futbol Americas a little bit later tonight on ESPN 2. That's right, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern.
Is Ali coming or what?
Fearsome foursome on your televisions.
Where's she been?
Getting ready.
All right, okay.